ask you my first question, which is, tell me about what happened with your awakening, what was going on and what happened?
Sure. Well, to summarize it, I had two near-death experiences, and then I could go deeper if you'd like. Two near-death experiences, but David, there's a lot of people who have near-death experiences. So I think I've actually been groomed pretty much all my life to have these experiences, including the near-death, to really awaken to a higher state. So, in essence, I've used my near-death experiences to, say, jump up, lots of notches where individuals go from, level to level to the next level to the next level. The near-deaths, again, allowed me to go from, say, level 10 to maybe level 50. You know what I mean? So the first near-death, and even before then, I was always like, say, searching for the meaning of life, or as Einstein puts it, that one equation that would result in life. And I found that in my first near death, which was a warehouse accident. I had my jaws crushed in a rail car. Yeah. So it sounds pretty gruesome. And I guess it was from the team members that was watching me die. But from my point of view, it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. That's where I actually understood that equation that Einstein was trying to solve, is the meaning, say, of life, right? From a very different perspective. Most of us in today's world, think that, well, if I become successful, and I tried that route, if I become successful, make a lot of money, then I'll be happy. Because it's really about happiness, or that interconnection. Or if I understand, or if I go, the religious path, if I go to church or pray 5 times a day, or whatever that we do in religion, then I'll be successful. But, I've never seen anybody feel complete, not one soul other than, Buddha or Jesus or, Muhammad, and, great individuals like that we read about. But, where are they? Why aren't there more? So that first near death, I understood who we are, and what it is a separation of identity. So, you peel away from, say, your physical form. So I had my jaws crushed, and then, well, I died, and then that's the first time I understood the other part of me, which is actually equates to about 99% of who we are. So as you separate, from your identity, and I'm sure you've heard people, relate their near-death stories. It's like, oh yeah, I hovered over my body, I just pulled away from my body, and that separation, I see my body hanging in there. It's like, gosh, I'm over there. What am I doing over here? Because it's like a mirror image. You're just pulling away from your sense of self, and it's like, and then that's that realization. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. And you think it's a gruesome, scary feeling, and it's not. It's the most euphoric feeling, because for the first time, you are actually, say, yourself. You are who you are in a physical form still, because you still have, traces of a physical essence, and it's quite euphoric. So when I say that, I mean that deep down in your heart of hearts, right? The greatness, the grandness, the abundance, the level of abundance that far surpasses, say, any physical wealth here, although physical wealth would be part of that if you lived at that level, say, of grandness here. So that's what I understood. And then I ascended into, that tunnel of light, where the beginning, I guess the introductory phase is where your loved ones are there, and they usher you in. I went through that phase into the life review section.
Yes.
The life review section is not really about, a life review where you get checked. It's not a checks and balances. It's not about, say, God coming down, or a saint or an angel, and going, you did this good, this good, this good, this, you really did bad. I don't know, what the hell happened. So we're going to dock. It's nothing like that. To me, it was a life relive. You get to understand life the way it is. So you relive your life. So it took me, again, 22 years of life, maybe in just a few seconds. You relive every instant, but from an awakened perspective. Just one second. There we go. But from an awakened perspective. So you, like, all the shouldas, all the couldas, why did, say, God do this to me? It's none of that. You understand that there's a specific reason on why things happen the way they did. Right? And then you grow and expand from it. Obviously, you can't change those experiences, but you grow and expand from, say, those experiences that you've had, again, from a much higher intellectual level. So that was the first near death.
Were you able to bring that elements of that consciously back into your body and into your memory, and like integrate that afterwards?
I did, but getting a little reflection here. But yes, so after that near death, everything seemed much brighter. Everything seemed much grander. You get to see, say, the meanings of why things are the way they are. You know, foods tasted better. The colors were more vibrant. It was quite amazing. And, you know, no matter what situation I was in, it felt like it was just a minimal piece of me, because it was a minimal piece of me, because the physical experiences that we have here, whether you're going through divorce, you know, or money issues or health issues, it's only 1% of who you are. The other 99% is still complete, is still grand. So I was looking at it from that perspective.
Wow, at such a young age to have sort of embodied that.
It was quite amazing. But, you know, time wears on you. And then what happens is that, there we go, it's probably better. What happens is that, you know, you get connected back into time, and then you start to see the heaviness of this world. And a lot of people experience that with the work that I do, by the way. They start to see the heaviness of this world. And that's an indication, actually, that you're seeing this reality from a higher perspective, so you get to see how, say, distorted or, again, heavy it is here.
Yeah.
So
And also your own personal remnants as well of that.
Yes, exactly. You're starting your separation of who you think you are compared to who you really are, you know, and you see it point blank. But it took me about 20 or so years. The second near-death experience.
Wow.
We can get into that if you'd like, or
yeah, just a brief presse on those 20 years. I mean, you had this compassion, this sense of the abundance of 99% of the universe, of yourself being greater than this 1%. Did that influence your life before the next one that you had?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So my abilities, my intuitive abilities really ramped up. You know, I used it to create, say, a successful web development business. You know, and also, you know, to become financially abundant here, because that's what we're seeking, but not from not that money will create, say, something for me, but as far as, say, security goes, right? Because we all need to be secure here in this physical world, so we can go do bigger and better things. And of course, you do see things from a very, very different perspective. You know, when you've had that experience. So,
and so, did you notice any sort of darker states in that 20-year period? Did some of the more darker times come in your second near-death experience, some of the hell states?
Yeah, the darker times, or, you know, as I call it, or, you know, Jesus and Buddha and individuals that I work with, you know, they go through dark nights of the soul. And again, that's that separation. And a lot of that came after my second near-death experience. But after the first near-death experience, you get to see the heaviness of this reality, and you always want to escape, especially if we don't understand it, you know. And that's why, again, in kids who've had near-death experiences, they have a higher suicide rate, because they think that this reality is heavier. Again, because we just don't understand why that near-death happened to us, and we, you know, we don't use, say, the tools or opportunities of how that near-death can open up, you know, those doors for us, and use it properly. So I didn't know that at the time, and it took me the second near death to really, say, hammer it into me and realize what this is all about.
Second time lucky.
Yes. Or maybe a little too dense. I didn't get it the first time. and I had to get hit over the head again. So,
And do you think that a lot of people, just looking back, really, like you say, particularly young people, but near-death experiences can primarily be quite distorting rather than
mhm.
beneficial for a lot of people? Do you think some people
Oh,
do
of
wake up?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's IONS, INS, Institute of like Near Death Studies or something like that. If you look at their website, I believe, they have a suicide hotline and all that for you. So
Okay, so that
again,
says it all. Yeah.
it really distorts you if you don't know how to use the tool
Mm.
of, say, near death.
That's quite a skill set. That's quite a niche, Maz, isn't it? To have seen that actually these awakening experiences from trauma, shock, near death are
Mhm.
actually phenomenal opportunities, and how to turn those around
Of
so that
course.
they actually
Mhm.
can be used to your greatest advantage.
Right. Yeah. So if you're, spiritually, say, advanced or spiritually successful, or you
Mm.
run, spiritually successful programs, you'll be able to use anything that comes or happens to you in physical form to, say, catapult you to higher and higher
Mm.
levels.
Interesting. Like when you say programs, just can you just expand on that term slightly?
Sure. Again, I'm a computer programmer, so I use everything. I don't use a lot of like spiritual language or religious language. I use because I see humans as programs. So we're all, say, a bunch of programs, or if you want to call yourself, say, a smart being, right? Just like your smartphone, you're a smart being. You have you have millions of apps, just like your smartphone that does a lot of things for you, like Google Maps, pictures, Instagram, whatever. There's tons of apps in you that run, the way you see things, the way you behave in certain patterns, the way your social structure happens, or your relationships, the way your health issues run, the way your success patterns run, who you're going to marry. All those things would be considered, say, apps for us, or as I call them, say, frequencies that resonate. And then together, as combined, we have a frequency signature, which is, say, your identity or your self-image that you create here in this reality.
Mm.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And do some of these programs come from past lives, through ancestral
Yes.
downloads? And how much is actually your own from this life, I think, for people? Or does it
That's a really good question, and I think I might have the answer because I work on tens of thousands of people throughout the world. So I've accumulated a lot of, say, knowledge or data from it. So when I tap into people, and this is one of my abilities, I can tap into people and know exactly where, say, what your core level issue is in your life, and then help you edit it. And that's how people become really successful in, like,
Mm.
business or finances or relationships, or they cure themselves of strange diseases or grave diseases.
Mm.
By the way, I'm not saying I cure anybody. I'm
Mm.
saying that I help people awaken and then they heal their life. So just like the way I healed my life. Um, so
Mm.
so so to answer your questions, like, what's the percentage that you carry forward? Most of us aren't really awakened enough to really design the life the way they should have. So I would say about 90% of how we run our lives are really programs from either previous lifetimes or, lineage type, like your hereditary patterns.
Mm. Do you think that corresponds to junk DNA? Do you think there's a correspondence between active DNA that is, the percentages they say that a majority of our DNA is not actually activated, and are we
Mhm.
carrying a lot of that junk in our DNA, or is it more topical, more specific?
I wouldn't call it junk DNA because, the Russian scientists, they've
Mm.
actually studied that junk DNA, or what American scientists call it junk. It's not junk. I mean, nature, one, would never create junk or, excess stuff. It's always, nature's always highly efficient. So I think that's where we create, say, or hold on to memories or
Mm.
patterns or deeper programming on, again, every aspect of our lives. So if you look at your DNA, just like, uh, you know, um, like your hair color, right? The kinkiness, the straightness of your hair, the thickness of your hair, all those, there's a program for it in your DNA if we could figure it out. Does that make sense
Mm.
to you?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Every aspect of just your hair. And I'm sure there's dozens of, say, properties of your hair
Mm.
that is in your DNA. So if somebody made a clone of you, just like they make a sheep, they would look identical. Well, how does that, even say the spots on a sheep, right? How does that happen? Well, it's imprinted somewhere in the DNA. So, and that's the physical, and uh, that's the hereditary patterns, or that's the physical aspect of what scientists call, the viable DNA. That's what we can study. The rest of the DNA is functions like, well, how you ascend. And by that I mean, what's your social structure, how fearful you are, how abundant you'll become. All of those, there's a program for it, just like there's a program to create your hair. There's a program on say how your marriage is going to go, or the type of person, not the specific person, but the type or the pattern of, say, marriage or intimate relationships you're going to have, right? Or how much money you're going to make. All those are programmed. And just like hereditary, that DNA, say, changes, right? It adapts, it evolves. So through time, we've evolved, physically. We don't look like a Neanderthal man anymore. We look, more like we do today. I was going to say civilized, but I don't think we're that civilized, really. But that's my opinion. But that's something else.
So do you think that the awakening process starts to help people to shed and to refine the programs that they've accumulated, and to sift through them and become, like you said, more of a conscious creator of abundant, healthier DNA and programs?
Yes, right. So most of us literally go, when they're born, it's like, well, I'll have what mom and dad had. So if you look at your life structure, the marriages, the financial situations, the religious perspective or spiritual perspective, everything else, right? A lot of it comes from, again, previous lifetimes or, your family lineage. So there was no conscious effort. There was no free will in that. Because again, if you were awakened, let's just say, David, would you choose the life that you had? Most of us probably wouldn't, or they wouldn't. You see what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So, right. It's not a program of free choice, free will, free choice. It's like, because again, the level that I work at, it's not like your conscious mind going, oh, I get it. I actually work at a much, much deeper level, your spirit level, or what I call your source code. When you can change people at that level, that's where, again, the magnificent, or some people might call it magical changes come about in people's lives.
So this working at people's source code at this deeper, higher level.
Or your DNA, if you want to call it, a spiritual DNA. Sure.
Spiritual DNA. Did that emerge from your second near death? Or was that already happening through your first?
Right. So the second near death, and there's I think there's like maybe close to 1,000 near deaths that happen every day, just in the U.S. Or documented. So there's much more. So what makes me different is that on the second near death, I went through, or basically I graduated through the tunnel of light. It literally is like, it's not really a tunnel, although, it's a euphoric space. It's brilliant white space. It's gorgeous. It's not, scientists would go, well, it's your optic nerve disconnecting, and that's where you see the bright light here. It's not like that at all. Because it's not just a visual perception. It's like a space of, you're in this space, and it's a space of being. It's a space of knowing. It's an expansive space to be. It's just not like, bright lights in your eyes, or, a whiteness that you get. So I managed to ascend, and there's about 13 levels in that, say, ascension process. And then you graduate. That's where you get, say, re-educated on from moving from a human, say, identity into, say, your spirit identity, right? It takes about 13 different layers. So I graduated at that level. And this is the difference. Most individuals who graduate never come back. So I happen to like sneak through somehow, graduate and see or experience life the way we would see it or be if we were at, say, 100% of our potentiality. I would call that archetype superhuman. So that's where that trademark or logo comes from, that we talk about. So at that level, like, you don't need anything. David. You know, obviously you're everything that you are. You're completely, you know, you don't need money, because if you needed money, I mean, it'll show up for you. Obviously, you're completely healthy. You don't age. You know, you don't get decrepit or anything like that. You're complete.
So it's like a pristine state of consciousness.
Yes, it's a pristine state of being,
Being.
and knowing who you are, and then creating anything that you would like. Imagine if we were at that level of potentiality, David, here in physical form, and that's what my work is about. Say, bringing out your optimum, say, potential here in physical form. So bringing your spirit body or your highest potential again here in physical form.
And so was it a conscious choice to then to do that, to bring that potentiality down back through, to descend back into your body? Or just to do a lot of, do those souls that do that then operate at in the higher realms? Would you get a sense of
Yes. So the conscious choice, you know, I wouldn't say a physically conscious. Just one second here. So I wouldn't say a physically conscious choice, or a conscious. I guess a conscious choice, if that's a sentence. It's at a spirit conscious choice. Does that make sense? Because your spirit guide. So at that level, my spirit was awakened enough to go, okay, this is a conscious, say, decision. Yes. So at that level it was. But you know, I managed to go beyond, because even at that level, you're still aware of being, say, in human identity or human form. You know, so I transcended into what I call the beautiful blue space, or the universal database, where you have access to all knowledge. This is, David, where you escape the identity of human form. And even, you know, if you go into the Bible or the Quran, they go, you know, you're created of, you know, God's essence or God's form, and you think it's human. It's not. You transcend that, and you go into literally feeling like a universe of your own. In it, I remember it just like it happened, you know, just yesterday, David. It is so grand and it's so beautiful that you're just in awe all the time, and you have access to all information that's there, that ever will be there, that ever was there, that, you know, and so if you think about it, I've been able to, or actually live or connect to that, say, consciousness, and bring it into physical form. And that's where I guess people call it magical abilities or powerful abilities, that, well, hasn't been actually seen, from when people tell me, in this plane for a long, long time.
Would you call that? I'm trying to find some spiritual, rather than technical language for that. Have you? Because I've heard in the Kabbalah they call it as well the blue space. It's the most highest ascended space in Kabbalistic knowledge.
Right.
And I'm thinking like the film The Matrix, when Neo goes outside consciousness and he's
Sure.
certain peak places. I'm just trying to really sort of get, for maybe those watching, they can and get some sort of
yeah. So the Matrix is really good. Where so you go into the underlying program, but even like the Matrix, he came from the outside in, so he was like a stranger to it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I do, and this is, again, this is what I do for people. I introduce them so they are the Matrix. So that's really the difference.
So they wake up to their own innate sense that they are.
Right. So they can master. Yeah. They can master the consciousness. They can master this reality. It's not about me like helping people. It's about me helping you to awaken so you can master your own space or your own life. Free will, I guess, at its highest form.
And when you were at that level, did you get a sense of other people up there? Well, people, but, you know, ascended masters such as the deities or religious, you know, religious icons like Jesus. But did you get any sense of?
Yeah, those are actually, say, the lower levels. And I'm not, you know, I'm not demeaning anybody or anything. But David, what happens is that to have a human identity, you would have to go down to a lower level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So where I ascended, and again, Jesus, and obviously, and those great, say, deities, always ascended higher, but they transcend their physical, say, identity or physical consciousness that has to be created to create physical form here.
Mm,
So that's why I say you'd have to jump down to a lower level.
I
Does that
see.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For us to understand it, because we have no words or no context or no conceptuality, language, or even our feelings wouldn't even say, scratch the surface of the knowledge and the emotions that's out there. And
Mm.
so
And
that's why.
is this where you kind of form the understanding of exponential intelligence, this ability to tap
Yes.
into unlimited knowledge and to carry the frequencies of like being creation?
Yes, and that's the key. I like that word, being creation, because in the Matrix, he was outside, and you can't say create if you're on the outside. And I was reading a quote from Albert Einstein, by the way, about that as well, because you can't solve a problem, right? If you're at that level, same level as the problem, you have to ascend higher.
Yes.
So basically, you have to say ascend higher than the Matrix, or be part of the Matrix, where you can say create its flow or redesign its flow. So yes.
Because I've noticed that's a big difference in working with yourself and hearing other people. It's this inside out ability to create that
Yes.
that comes from this sort of essence of total abundance that does not cost your soul anything to reach it.
No, not at all.
And
Not at
that's
all.
for me is quite a tangible and physical difference when I've looked at the healing I've done working with you,
Hmm.
healing
And
ancestral.
it's very efficient. It's very efficient, very fast, because we all have that innate ability already. I'm just helping you remove all the filters, again, through lifetimes, through physical, from family renditions of your DNA or spiritual DNA, if you want to call it, removing all that stuff so you can integrate with your higher being more and more.
And just to clarify, when you help someone to remove their ancestral baggage, they're
Mhm.
not losing their connection to their ancestors. Are they perhaps making it more efficient and taking the sort of the blessing essence of their ancestors and only carrying
Yes.
the sort of most enlightened part of their ancestors rather than the crud, the
Yeah.
baggage, the
Beautiful point.
unancestral? Yeah.
That is so beautiful. So in my work, I work with a lot of people or a lot of couples. And again, if they're meant to be divorced, they get divorced. It just happens faster. But for those individuals who are meant to be together, you know what I mean? I work with them, and what happens is like they get to see the real selves, not the crud that everybody is exposed to. You remove all that crud, and then again, say in that couple example, they get to see the beauty and grace, the full potential of that person, of who they are, not all the garbage and crap and crud that you said. So if you say expand on that, yes, so all your ancestors or your family, you get to see, say, their full potential of who they actually are, not all the garbage that they brought along with. Because that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing all the garbage that we brought along with, not our real selves.
So it gives you that ability to embody this sort of God frequency, this source energy, and to be it, and then to lift
Yes,
the perception out of yourself, so that you're beginning to see what's what in the world. Sometimes you see the ugliness of the world, and then
exactly.
that gives you, as you open your heart, and the heart heals, or the noticing heals, the perceptions heal. Then you
Mhm.
can just see the greatness in people that they're struggling perhaps to fulfill.
Exactly. So, and that's how you really heal. This isn't like burying things. This isn't that you have, anxiety or depression or, illness. It's not about, again, burying things. It's not about covering it up with medications or whatever. It's just literally eliminating that filter or that program that you have for that reason why you are ill or depressed. You remove that, and then your natural light starts flowing through. Is that what you're talking about? Or
Yeah, and I think,
yeah,
to put it bluntly, it's crap out first before the goodness can come in. And
good point.
and I think for me, because I've been working with you for a few years, and
Mhm.
it frightens people because a lot of people think, oh well, I did 20 years psychotherapy for that. I've done 5 years
Exactly.
homeopathy. I've done this. I've done that. I've done the other. And one of the core signatures of your work, and working with you and seeing hundreds of my friends and associates, directing them to you, and my own
Thank you.
clients working with these frequencies, it's a pleasure and an honor, is that people get scared when
Yes.
this crap starts to rise up and rise out, because
Right.
it can have very strong, I think you taught me about the pain body and
Hmm.
about the energetics of like the sort of the, when some, I would say perhaps something looking at a morphogenic field, it's stuck a certain way, and if
Hmm.
someone's been sort of suffering under those programs and under those family weights for,
Hmm.
for, for eons, for generations, as they
Hmm.
start to unearth that darkness,
Hmm.
it's gonna take a while to build the momentum in some cases to pull it out and to see it off.
Exactly.
And I think that
Right.
scares a lot of people, that detox
It's
process. It's so
yes,
different,
it
your work,
does.
in that respect. I've not met anyone who's so thoroughly pulls things out at the root,
Right.
so it's gone for good,
It's
because
gone for good.
because of what you've achieved or risen the way you rose up.
Right.
It's like, I was calling someone today, I'm like Dino Rod. I don't know if you have that franchise in America, but basically it just takes all the crap out the drainage system,
Hmm.
and there's just no gunk. You pull all the gunk out so the drains can flow, so there's a full
Exactly.
fluid, in the tube. And how is it that your work works this way when a lot of other modalities are working differently? Why
Hmm.
is that? What's going on?
Well, so it's a great question. I love your questions. So think of it this way, David. So at the base level, you've got the physicalness of this reality. So those modalities that they use, and most everybody, on everything that we've done, including like becoming successful in this pattern, right? We
Mm,
add on more money, or
mm,
more success to ourselves, thinking that, well, that stench that's deep within us is going to get covered up, and well, it doesn't. And that's why there's a
yeah,
lot of people who become successful, and it destroys them, or they go, God, it's not making me happy. Like look at Robin Williams, or look at those other people, that commit suicide, right? They
huge
should be
success.
totally complete.
Yeah.
Why aren't they? So what happens is that, well, basically, to use your draining example, is that, well, let's just throw more good smelling stuff down there, you know what I mean? And then it'll go away, but or try something that'll open up that drain a little bit more, and that's what happens. But again, we're still clogged up. What I do is just like go in there and just like pull everything out. And as you pull everything out, people start to see like what's really clogging their drain, and it's scary. It's like, oh my God, that's what's been in me, and nobody likes that. Well, you
Mm.
know nobody likes it, but people who are strong enough to go, holy crap, I'm glad that's out of me. Other people go, oh, I worked with, say Moss, and all this crap came out of me. It's like, no, that crap's been in you ever since whenever. I'm just showing you what's been in you, so now you can, actually free flow. So
That's brilliant. And how has religion contributed to that garbage, to put it
yeah.
bluntly, without wanting to defame religion in any way? But
Yeah.
how do people make contracts with their religions, with perhaps
Mhm.
higher beings, deities, powerful beings that occupy the
Right.
higher realms? What's going
Right.
on there where perhaps they need to readjust their whole belief system, and
Sure.
what's inside them around that?
Well, if you want to talk about like spirit guides or deities and all those things, so most of the time, those deities that say people create, or spirit guides that they create, are renditions of their own sense of higher self. So
Ah,
those deities really, or even angels, are created from their sense of self, because we are great creators. So they can only take you so far to the to the consciousness that you actually are. Sometimes they're actually there if you're running certain programs of being burdened. Those deities will actually create more burden for you, because they're almost like agents of whatever program that you're running. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, it's a
To
bit like
keep
a
you
very
down.
advanced pain body that just keeps feeding itself through what it creates.
Exactly. Right. So when people work with me and their spiritual guides or deities and all that aren't of pure intent, or they've mastered to the level that they're like beyond their spirit guides, they disappear because they're not needed anymore, because they're self. Same thing happens, for example, with animals. I see a lot of animals who are who absorb a lot of their owner's pain, whether they're ill and so on like that, right? um, what do they call them, the pets?
Helper animals, is it? Or
Yeah, helper animals,
yeah.
exactly. Thank you. So when they're not needed anymore, they usually tend to pass on
Mm.
because they're not needed anymore, right? They go on and help somebody else. So 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 with that in mind, and then to answer that last aspect of the first aspect of religion, what I always say is that if you're not getting the same results as the creators of that religion, for example, Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, then that religion that you're practicing, you're doing something wrong. And people go, well, the church or the Catholic Church says this about this religion, it must be true. Well, are you getting the same results as Jesus, right? If you're not, then you've been taught wrong. It just, bottom line is, the work
Mm.
that I do, and you can attest to this, David, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You see the bottom line. It's not like you're going to have faith, when you die, and then you'll see the results. You'll see the results, you
Mm.
know, right away, right? So,
There's a lot of I call it like a program that brainwashes me. It would
mhm,
brainwash me to keep perpetuating this talk. Yeah, my spirituality is really working because I go and I sit with a group of people and we all share. I feel
right,
uplifted. We call in spirit. We
right,
feel upgraded. We feel uplifted. And then the
right,
same patterns would remain. And then I'd call
exactly.
out to God and
Hmm.
maybe call for help.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people reach out for God and they say, God, please help me.
Hmm.
And maybe their ancestors have actually done that as well. And
Yes.
one thing I've learned about is something like almost like contracts with
Hmm.
beings where you're almost beholden to them according
Hmm.
to the what you asked for. And
Right.
can you
That is
are you
true.
able to shed a bit of light on contracts that
Yes.
maybe cost people a bit more?
Yeah, so contracts, and again, like using religion, when you say seek help from God, and then like, well, why doesn't God help me? Because, well, in reality, God has given you all the potential that you could ever possibly use. It's against free will for you to go, it's like, hey, can God help me? It's it's against free will, because he has to, like, and I just use the word he, but God has to intervene in your space. So that wouldn't be free will. So what God does, though, is created all your potential. All you have to do is say, realize your potential, and you'll see that God is more helpful. I don't
Mm.
know if that's a coincidence or not, but the more you awaken yourself, the more, say, God is again more helpful to you or more beneficial to you.
Mm.
Uh, but the way religion practices it, and again, not the pure form of religion. I'm not knocking any religion down. There's a lot of good information in religion, but you have to weed out the good and the bad over thousands of years.
Mm.
So anyway, when you peel that away, then God can actually help you.
Mm.
I don't know
And
why I'm picking that up, but
And I think one thing we've not talked about is this essential aspect of embodiment that
mhm,
you teach. It's like your work is almost so simple, the ego word in
very
play,
efficient. Yes.
efficient, but it's almost too simple. It was, for me, it was just almost
Hmm.
too difficult to just breathe and be present
Hmm.
in the frequencies that you create, and
Of
that
course.
then start to align me. I call it like entrained me to that higher frequency, and then my body starts to vibrate at that. And then
Right.
the more I practice embodying and breathing and being present here in this time space
Hmm.
continuum of earth in my body, and
Yes.
start to get more traction in my
Right.
body, and to
Right.
hold my space around all the things that come and interrupt and emote you and trigger me. And it, I think, how did you discover that that was the way to share what you did? How did that come about?
Well, yeah, because I don't say create new knowledge. You know, the knowledge is there. It's always there. It's ingrained within us. So there's a really, there's some beautiful points. I wish I can remember it all. So
Sorry for
one,
my long questions. I'm not very.
uh, no, it's really good. And by the way, I'm working on your listeners. So people
Great.
listening or viewing this will actually say understand it or actually say transform from it. So first
Fantastic.
of all, you said entrainment. So you're right. What I do is I resonate at such a high frequency that I force you to resonate at that higher frequency. And like you said, as you resonate at a higher frequency, well, all the crap or the minutia that's held on to you at the lower frequencies, right? Because darkness, distortion, illness, lack of anything, money, relationships, love, and anything like that, only reside at the lower frequencies. So I force you to resonate at a higher frequency, and then all that stuff falls off. Your environment literally changes for you. Right? It
Mhm.
gets forced to change. There's no other way. So it's from the inside out. You're not trying to put more garbage on to say get rid of all that garbage that's inside you already. Does that make sense too?
It does. And at what point does someone need to actually, you've used this term before, when the sort of got to have some flesh in the game, some skin in
Hmm.
the game. At what point
Yes.
can someone just literally hang about your frequency versus actually having to do their own work to connect for themselves rather than being that spoon fed sort of
Okay.
um, slightly more passive way of of
Right.
raising frequency by being around,
Yeah.
see all these people in spiritual communities or wanting to be around big personal growth gurus and just kind of being around it like a groupie versus actually how do people then begin to practice for themselves what
Right.
you
And I train you right off the bat for that. So I can help you delete the programs that you're running. Right. So example, say, you always attract abusive, say, women or men in, your intimate relationships. So I help you change that programming. The next, say, relationship that you will probably come into contact is somebody abusive, but you consciously know, again, a conscious level knowing, it's like, oh my God, this person reminds me of my ex who abused me all the time. So at the level, you make that free will choice because I can't do anything for you. You make that free will choice to go, okay, I'm not going to go out with this person. Does that make sense?
it
And then
does.
you break or you confirm the deletion for that.
Mm.
So,
And I think
so that's how I help guide you into, say, mastering your own abilities. Like, no, you're well on your path, which is really nice. I can scan you, and you're doing really, really great, by the way. So,
thank you. So um, that brings up 2 points. One is it's a bit like I call it when I'm talking to my clients. It's like talk. If abuse has been corkscrewed in and
mhm,
compounded and compacted in, as
right,
they go through this embodying, awakening, and training into pure source
hmm,
practice, it
right,
literally has to come out. And one of the things you've taught me is that as it comes out, what was abusive and what abused you, such as compressing your rage, compressing you with
yes,
manipulation, literally that almost becomes your reverse superpower of mastering that dark aspect of yourself where you can get suppressed. And literally it reverses or reverse engineers the abuse. So it actually becomes your empowerment.
exactly. You're so true. So, say for example, anger has been used to control you, right? Say like your mother yelled at you all the time, right? And now you've run that program, and then people yell at you or raise their voice, and then what do? You sink into a little hole.
Mm.
So when I help you, it turns around and you get angry, but you don't get angry, and use it the way your mom or dad did, but you would you would use it to go, okay, I'm never going to let that happen again. So you use anger, again, the power emotions, as I call it, the power tools of emotions, to
Mm.
say, separate you from your old identity. So it does turn it around. Does that make sense
It
to you?
does. It's like a lens has come away from me, and suddenly I'm seeing the
Yes.
starkness of the universe and of people, and it happens with my clients. And you've helped me so much to literally, like, things just start to go, holy shit! Like
Yeah.
I did an embodiment
Mhm.
medi healing with Maz, or I taught my clients how to do that my way, and then literally these like lenses are coming off people's eyes, and they're just
Yeah.
seeing everything, and the more they
They see
practice,
everything.
the more they see it. It's like, how is that happening? How are these lenses coming off? It's crazy.
Right. It's quite a beautiful technique, David. And then also, this removes us from good and bad. Because most of us go, well, if I'm a good person, then then life is going to be better for me. I'm going to go to heaven and all that stuff. And
Mm,
obviously, it doesn't work that way, because there's a lot of good people who their lives are just hellish. They're ill, they don't have no money, they get abused, right? So why does that happen?
mm.
So in all this conversation, have you noticed that we don't talk about what you're doing, what you're supposed to do? It's all realizations and resonating at higher frequencies.
Wow, beautiful.
Does that make sense?
It does, and it's
Yes.
a bit like what I've learned with you is that I was quite judgmental, and I had
Mhm.
quite a lot of positions that had calcified,
Right.
shrunk my world to stay safe
Yes.
and secure. And this higher frequency comes in and it starts to crack the concrete. And
Yes.
then I feel wobbly. I feel lost. I
Yes.
have felt lost. I have felt all sorts of feelings of death. And
Mhm.
um, as the ego structures have literally like an earthquake coming in,
Right. Right.
and it can be quite frightening for many. Like, I think you call it a detox, and
Right.
so I'm no longer operating from this place of judgment that has calcified as a position of self, as an
Mhm.
identity, and it's
Right.
just been wonderful to see how your frequencies do that.
Right. So and again, you explain it beautifully. The reason why that happens is that we've used crutches. I call them crutches, in our life, to say, hold us up, something to hold on to. Like abuse, that's a crutch. Fear is a crutch, right?
Mm,
Being ill is a crutch for many individuals. I'm not saying it's an excuse, although at a spirit level, it kind of is an excuse. But uh, again, and I'm not saying it's your fault that these things are happening to you, but once you say remove all those things from you, you start to feel, well, unstable. Although they've never really helped you in the past, you start to feel unstable because that's the only thing you had, right?
mm,
uh, and then, like yourself, you start to go, wait a second, I don't need crutches anymore, I can stand on my own, I don't need anything, say, physical anymore to, like, feel safe. So you've done the flip where you go, okay, I'm self-sustaining. But if you're running a program of self-sustaining, what do you naturally get around your physical space? Self-sustainment. So the level of wealth will come into you, that's comfortable for you. The level of abundance, the level of relationships will all rise. And that's what I call 360 degrees of abundance. It's not just one aspect. Every aspect of your life, say, transforms with the process that we do.
that's incredible, Maz, and I'm beginning to see peace and harmony and flow happening more and more in my life as a result of
Yes.
working with you.
Yes. And a question for you, David, is that you're not doing anything specific. It's just happening from the inside. Does that make sense? You don't have to go pray 5 times a day, for example. You don't have to go, okay, I got to do my meditation. I have to, not knocking down Anthony Robbins. She's got a great, event or whatever that he does, but it's not sustainable because it's all motivation. Say that his clients practice exponential intelligence, right? To get rid of, say, the foundational issues that they have. And then they went to Anthony Robbins, they'd be more sustainable. Does that make
Mm.
sense to you? But I guess my point was, got kind of carried away, is that you're just a state of being, of peace, a state of being. No matter what happens around you, you're in that, say, blissful state, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then, well, blissful things happen to you, not the other way around. It never works the other way around.
The way I describe it is it's a bit like having Intel inside rather than
Yes.
DOS.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So one of my, sorry, carry on, Maz. Did you have?
No, I'm done. No, I'm good.
So this business of scanning people, it's quite a big thing that you do when people engage with you. You scan places, you scan people. How did that come about?
Through my second near-death experience, amazing abilities just came into me. So literally, I can read your, say, DNA structure or your spiritual DNA and go to, say, whatever source code. So it's not I'm not clairvoyant, clairaudio, or anything. Although I can, if you're clairvoyant, I'll tell you in, say, a clairvoyant way. I'll explain it to you. So I'm all those, but it goes beyond emotions or anything like that. It's more of a sense of knowing, because emotions can get distorted from day to day, right? What I see in you is just like concrete. It's like ones and zeros. You can't change the facts. You can't go, well, in this scenario, I was happy, so X happened. What I say to you, or the core level issues that you have, like work consistently on you or in you. Did that make sense?
Yeah. And how does that develop in people when they're working with you, that ability to read the information? Does it just, as more lenses and more crap comes out, more information?
Let me ask you, how has that worked for you? Because your abilities have really, from what I'm seeing, from what you've done in the past with clients and what you do now, very, very different, if that makes sense. So the same process, as I help you awaken, or as I help you resonate higher, your natural abilities of just knowing or becoming more transparent, so they come into play.
Yeah, for me, it's been a combination of this most unbelievable innate knowing.
Exactly.
Coming through, and it has words and language, and it often talks, like you say, in a language that resonates for a person. I'll get songs or words or dialect of their ancestors that familiarizes themselves with what's going on.
Right, because you're tapping into their programming. You're not channeling anything. You're not using your emotions or senses like clairaudio. That's a channel, and then it filters through your channels. Does that make sense? Yeah. For you to understand it. But this is, and that's why I say this is more accurate. But I've only got like 4% left on my battery. So.
Oh, okay. So two last things. One is, how does that differentiate from, say, the Akashic records?
How does what differentiate?
Scanning people and working at source level and scanning people's spiritual DNA differentiate from, say, people who read Akashic records?
Okay, so people who read Akashic records, they're more physical based. So just think of it this way. The frequencies that create your, say, experiences here are at a physical level. Does that make sense? They have more density to them. So, and then the level that I work at would be like at spirit level, and the level that you're getting into, again, is more of a spiritual level. So the Akashic records are more material based. So it's like a life history of that person. But so what do you do with that life history? I can go in and edit it. So although we might see the same thing in, say, a person's history, right, or a person's lineage, again, you can't change what physically happened. Again, hence the Akashic records. I can help you, say, change the emotions or the frequency, not the emotions, but the meaning behind that, rather than, say, burying you into the ground, right, or getting abused by, say, a pattern or an experience that happened. What if you flipped it around and you strengthen from whatever happened? So I'm not changing, say, people's experiences of what happened in their history. I'm actually changing the meaning or understanding of what happened to them, so they can grow and expand and, say, get enlightened or resonate higher. So that's the difference.
So it's a bit like when your iPhone gets a new operating platform and the bugs have been ironed out, and it just lifts you up to the next level.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, kind of.
So,
So yeah.
So again, the Akashic records, they're accurate, but you can't edit them. I can edit them for you. So simple as that.
That's incredible. So as we draw to a closing, there's the limit of your battery chat. Could we perhaps do a short medi healing or a short
Of
embodiment
course.
of
Sure.
to kind of
We can,
close off with?
yeah, we can do, yeah, we can take about 5 minutes or so.
Great.
So let's go ahead and again, take a nice, strong, deep breath. Again, whether you're sitting or standing or lying down. And throughout this talk, just working on your, just listening to me is almost like me working on you. But let's ramp it up a bit. Another strong, deep breath in. Just connecting to the mastermind group. So all the listeners that will be, say, listening to this or watching this, because there's strength in numbers. We use that strength to pull us away from all the distortions, those blocks that we face. And then another strong breath in again. Just asking ourselves, how do I connect to pure source even stronger? Nothing spiritual or religious. You're asking yourself, how do I become my best possible self? And we'll just go a little deeper, David. So imagine whatever problem that you have. Notice where it is in your body, or where it resides, or where it is tension, or maybe outside of your body, arms length around, above or below you. For those who have, say, mental disturbances. If you could, say, grab, say, for example, it's on your shoulder, you can grab that aspect or that issue or that problem and just pull it out and just hold it in the palm of your hands as you, say, are watching it. In the palm of your hands, in 3D, what does it look like? How does it make you feel? And just a couple questions. Is the problem that you're having? I'm not looking for solutions. So, for example, say some of you go, well, I need 10,000 a month, and then I'll be fine. You're in lack of money. Okay, simple as that. Or you have no money, or you're broke. That's your problem. Or your relationship sucks. Again, that's your problem. Let's just get straight out honest. I see some of your audience kind of eluding this situation, kind of coloring it brighter, probably from spiritual practice. Anyway, holding it in the palm of your hands. Notice what it looks like. Notice what it feels like. Is it your problem? Did it originate from something that you've done? And as you can see, 100% of you, yes, you might have, say, caused it in this lifetime experience, but did it originate from you? Or is it a pattern that somebody else ran in your family or, again, a previous lifetime? Are the physical solutions that you're doing escaping the problem, or is it getting rid of it, or escaping it, or covering it up? Again, notice that it's not deleting the problem, it's just covering or escaping. What I do will help you, say, delete that problem once and for good. So as I guide you through this imagery, it's more than just an imagination exercise. It's actual a reprogramming of all of you who are listening. There we go. Noticing your breath. And then just opening your eyes just for a flash and just regaining where you are here, closing them back up, resetting yourself. Almost like deleting a program. Right? You got to shut down your computer. There we go. Again, taking a look at that problem in the palm of your hands. How does it feel? So this should be, say, the start of a proper resolution of your problems. Just note that it doesn't mean that your problem is resolved. It means the process of your problem resolving. So sometimes things might get worse for you. Things have to break apart for you. You have to let go of friends or family or whoever, right, to let go of your problem. So be mindful of that. It's not a magic wand that go poof and there you are, because that doesn't resolve. This is about, again, dissection, getting rid of, say, that tumor that's in you, and then the process of recovery for you. All right? So as we take a deep breath in, just opening your eyes.
So Maz's phone is just run down on battery. So thank you so much, Maz Sajady, for that beautiful Medi healing. You can find more about Maz's work at www.mazsajady, sajady.com. That's MASSAJADY.com to find out more about his Medi healings. And maybe we'll finish that Medi healing off sometime as well.